Hello everyone, welcome back to me and my videos. Welcome back to the Ghosty channel. And before we get into anything, this is about the Batman movie, and this is a spoiler review. I'll be talking about spoilers and my thoughts on the movie that I can't talk about in the previous review that, spoil the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, I advise you to back off out of the video and come back when you've seen the movie. Or if you've seen the movie, welcome. So again, this is a spoiler.
Hello, people of Gotham. This is your one and only spoiler warning.
Alright. Well, firstly, my thoughts as a whole, I absolutely love the film. I thought the movie was phenomenal. As a film alone, and as a Batman movie, it was even better. I really loved it a lot. I've thought we've been in good hands since I even first heard that Matt Reeves was directing the movie, and as the casting went along, and look at what we got. To no surprise, it was an amazing movie. I basically summed up my thoughts and my overall perspective of things in the review video, and I don't spoil it in that, so I do get my thoughts across fairly well in that video. But there are some things I can't talk about. But like the performances, my God, they were amazing. The story is great. It made for an interesting and really intricate plot that many people maybe won't understand fully, which I'm going to make a breakdown video about that and much more. So hopefully when that's out, you can tune into that as well and check that out. But like this movie really cemented the cast as in the movie as a definitive Batman project. All the actors kill their roles, and Pattinson is the Batman. He was phenomenal, and it really it was like a character study of Batman in the same way of being a Batman film. Well, let's talk about the film itself and things that happen in the movie, since that's what a spoiler talk is. All right. Well, firstly, the opening. Oh my God, the opening starts immediately off with Riddler stalking the mayor and his family or whatever, and then it gets into the dark room of Mayor watching TV, which he answers a phone call, which might be Falcone, because we learned that Falcone is like the kingpin that's basically has the city in his palm. And then he moves away out of the way, whatever, and Riddler is standing right behind him, which is terrifying and it's haunting, but it also makes for a great scene and a badass opening. And then obviously we see, like we've seen in the trailers, Riddler kills him, and we see that sequence where he tapes his head, and then it cuts to Gotham and the criminals and low-level street thugs that are in Gotham, whatever. And this was amazing. This felt like the most Batman thing you could have. It shows all these thugs and criminals around the city that are just committing these crimes and doing these hateful acts, but they are scared of the shadows. Not what even is in the shadows, but they're scared of the shadows because they're scared of the Batman. And like Batman himself says, he is the shadows, which couldn't be more Batman. It is so down to the character, and it really nails the characters in this film. I can't get past that. Even if they are doing their special take on it, like Riddler, like a serial killer, it still pretty much nails the character, and does get the core character right, while keeping him how they wanted to, do this character. But yeah, all these criminals are scared of the dark, but they fear the Batman, and Batman really does get his point across and what he wants to do in Gotham, which is great. Which, over the movie, and instead of going for pure and raw vengeance, he goes from a symbol of fear to a beacon of hope, which also is phenomenal. It is phenomenally done, and the development for his character and the movie overall really shows Batman a lot and the core character, and it really is great as they progress his character. By the end of it, Batman is still Batman, but he learns what the city needs him to be. He knows what kind of Batman he needs to become. That brings me to another point about how he needs to, or how he does learn what he needs to become, because Bruce Wayne in this isn't that much different than Batman. And everyone's saying how, or a lot of people are saying on the internet how we don't see that playboy, philanthropist, like happy-go-lucky Bruce Wayne. Which we don't need to. The movie does fine without it. And I'm glad they didn't do that. Again, Batman is in his second year in this, or he's been Batman for around 2 years now in this film, and he's still learning how to be Batman. He's still learning how things work and trying to perfect his ways of his crusade. And by the end of it, he learns that Gotham needs him to be more than just a vengeful vigilante. So I think he will bring out this, playboy persona for Bruce Wayne, and I think he's going to appear in the public more. He's going to care more for his image, and he's going to do more with his fortune and what his family has. I really do expect that they're going to do more with Bruce Wayne side of things instead of only Batman, or most of Batman. Because now he knows he needs to do more for the city. He's going to realize that he needs to put his money somewhere useful, other than his crusade of being Batman. The movie itself really shows how much care and love is put into this, and how much they adore the comics and Batman as a character and his mythos, and it really is portrayed phenomenally well in this movie. It really shows that instead of them just telling you, which is phenomenally done. But yeah, that scene where the criminals are hesitant to what they're doing, and they think twice of what they're acting on because of the Batman and the dark, is beautiful. I love that so much, and it really nails Batman. I love that so much. It feels like it's stripped straight out of the comics. It feels like the core and pure, most Batman thing there is. And I have it right here. This beginning monologue of Bruce Wayne. Here it is. The city streets are crowded for the holiday, even with the rain. Hidden in the chaos is the element, waiting to strike like snakes. But I'm there too, watching. 2 years of nights have turned me into a nocturnal animal. I must choose my targets carefully. It's a big city. I can't be everywhere. But they don't know where I am. We have a signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them. Fear is a tool. They think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. And of course, if we've all seen the movie, that monologue takes place on Halloween night, as the movie starts out on, when Riddler kills the mayor and things start to progress onwards. That is so beautifully done, and is so this is such a good portrayal of Batman. Not only Batman, but all the characters as a whole, and Gotham City overall. It really does nail it, and it feels like the core elements of everything that the movie brought and the movie has to offer. That's awesome. That is Batman. But that whole opening sequence is absolutely beautifully done. And I already shared my opinions on the cinematography of it all. If you want to go watch a review video, if you haven't seen it, you can go do that. But again, the cinematography in all of this and the movie overall is shot so well done. A little bit after the mayor dies and whatnot, they have to track down. Well, firstly, they decipher Riddler's puzzle or whatever, and leads them to the mayor's car, where they find a thumb drive, which I'm glad Riddler has a sense of humor. Riddler's always been like a comedic character kind of thing sometimes, here and there. Like, he has a sense of humor, which I do get in this movie, also while keeping that sadistic and serious, intimidating take on him, which is good. I find a thumb drive with, the mayor's severed thumb attached to it, which is pretty funny. The comedy in this film is great. A lot of it is from Penguin, but there's not even many jokes. Some things are funny and meant to be funny, but they're not full-on jokes, which is good. But the movie doesn't really need comedy. And also, I'm on the point of that thumb drive thing. The Riddler in this, I love his character so much. I really love how cryptic and mysterious they left him, and they all while keeping the core character how he is, which is pretty. I think they absolutely did it well. I love how dark and intricate his traps were, and his his death traps and riddles were. It really cements the fact that Riddler is unhinged. And not only does he fully believe what he's doing is right, but it also does show us that Batman is the only one capable of handling the Riddler. Also, Riddler literally lives across the street from the Iceberg Lounge, which is like, Falcone's base of operations. I really hope Iceberg Lounge does become like this famous nightclub instead of this like mob. Or I guess it was just a nightclub, and it was Iceberg Lounge that we all know. But I really hope that it becomes, it's going to become Penguin's base of operations and his establishment since Falcone's gone. And also, I really hope that they're just going to just put a huge iceberg, just ice, like some kind of ice statue or this big ice figure. Also, I want to share that this particular scene is one of my favorites in the film, which is the funeral scene. And it also sets an example for what I said earlier about Riddler and his death traps. And I really mean this when I say it. It's not only for Riddler, as it goes for every other character in this film, but every time they do anything, or any scene that they're in, it really grows out the character more and more, which I absolutely love. This Riddler is intimidating. He's scary, and he, sets out to do what must be done in his mind. And we know that he's enacting his own sense of justice that actually is inspired by Batman. Which again, I'll get into more about that in like a breakdown review. But my opinion on it, I won't, because that's more of a breakdown point of it. My opinion on that, about Batman inspiring Riddler, a lot of villains really come out and make a name for themselves because of the Batman existing, and then that's why we get them iconic relationships between Batman and the villains. And I don't hate it. I actually like that a lot. That Batman, like, he's doing good for the city, and he's on this crusade to make the city a better place. But he's also making, these villains are coming out because of him and his mission. Yeah, Riddler in this was influenced by Batman, and I think it was well done, pretty good. Especially that scene that we'll get into later about, or with Batman and Riddler in Arkham. That was an amazing scene. That again really got Riddler like as a character right, compared to his core character from the comics and Riddler overall. And since I spoke on Riddler's character and his involvement in the plot, let's talk about the plot itself. Summed up, basically, when Thomas Wayne was running for mayor, Bruce's dad, he started this renewal project to basically help rebuild the city into a better shape. Now, Bruce's mother, Martha Wayne, in this movie was originally in Arkham, which is another founding family of Gotham. And then she later became a Wayne. And yes, this has been done before in comics. Her family, as the Arkhams, do have a dark history behind it. And a journalist named something Elliot, which we'll get more into detail later, because I think that can actually be used in future movies and whatnot. But anyways, the journalist is killed, and the Waynes are aware of this. They go to the police about this murder, and then they themselves are killed. Falcone ends up taking up the renewal money, and basically goes out his crime syndicate to basically the whole city, and turns it into a corrupt city where almost everyone is either working under him or is a criminal. Fast forward 20 years, where we get Bruce active as Batman, and Edward Nashton enacting his own sense of justice and vengeance through being the Riddler, after being inspired by Batman. My thoughts on this exactly is I really love how much this universe has grown out, only by this one film, keep in mind. And not only this world that the director and cast are building, but the characters in City too. And with the Waynes, I was actually worried going into the film about this part, like their part in the storyline, because I didn't want them to be made as criminals. If you take the Waynes, aka Bruce's parents, and make them criminals, it kind of diminishes the fact of him being Batman in the first place. The reasoning behind Bruce being Batman in the first place is because he chooses to war against what took his family from him, which is the crime that infests Gotham. And making the Waynes criminals doesn't do that much justice. But in the movie, they're made out to be something that wasn't the Waynes' fault. That was this dark history, and eventually came out with this conspiracy that Riddler aired on live television. And then that's where we see in the movie. And at the end of the day, the Waynes are still good people in this, while maintaining the emotional weight for Bruce and the significant elements of the plot. And I think they did it fairly well. Bruce's mother originally being in Arkham has been done before, and it doesn't change anything too significant other than this specific movie's plotline and the conspiracy. and anything else if they decide to shed light on this in future installments and anything else in this universe. Of course, this also does lead to Falcone being the rat as like the key of Riddler's puzzle and basically the center of the city's corruption, which was a pretty good twist in my opinion. And I'm glad they didn't make him the rat as like a small scale problem, and instead made him out to be this kingpin of Gotham that basically rules the crime underworld and uses everyone like puppets. And he has the entire city in his palm. And I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the overall storyline of things, and I think they did it phenomenally well. But as we're talking about the rat, the El Rata Alada, let's go to the one who conspired that in the first place. Let's talk about the Arkham scene with Batman and the Riddler from Beyond the Glass. Also, I personally thought Paul Dano killed it, and he's definitely one of my favorite iterations of the character, and I'm so glad that this film is actually a thing and it's been released to the public. And literally everyone on the internet is saying how good he did and how his villain is like one of the best. His like version of the character. So I'm really glad to see the majority opinion of it being good also. But anyways, let's get back to the scene. Now this scene really does feel like Batman and Riddler going at it. And I'm actually kind of glad that they didn't have like a physical fight, because Riddler is one of, if not the best villain against Batman when it comes to mind games and a fight with intelligence. So they didn't really have a fight. Like, that scene is really the first time they see each other in person throughout the entire film. Plus, I think it did make for a better film overall, and it was a good choice in the end. In this scene, it is heavily implied that Ashton is talking to Batman like he knows he's Bruce Wayne, which he does not. I'm making clear right now. He did not know that Batman is Bruce. He did not know his true identity. He even targeted Bruce Wayne because he thinks that Bruce Wayne wronged him in some sort of way, and it makes sense since the Gotham elite citizens that were corrupt and the criminals weren't his only target, as his own ideology of justice and vengeance, you could say, in this was he was going after everyone who had wronged him, which included Bruce Wayne, because when the renewal plan went to shit, Bruce Wayne got the spotlight, and all the other orphans that were out of that spotlight had to suffer, and Riddler was one of them. And he even refers to Batman as you, since he's talking to him, and Bruce Wayne as he and him. And the scene goes on with Dano's incredible and haunting performance as Nashton continues to talk from behind the glass, and it's revealed that he's been thinking of Batman as a partner in this plot of murders, and that they make a good team. And this entire time, Nashton Riddler thinks that Batman as an ally, and he sees him as a partner in this. And then Batman refutes this and goes against it. He denies it angrily too, and Riddler basically has a mental breakdown. And this is obviously, if you know the Riddler and the character of Riddler, this breakdown is because of his plans going haywire, and he doesn't get what he wants. He's wrong, and he loses. And you could say he won because of all of his victims, and did end up dead, and he did kill them the way he wanted to, but all besides Bruce Wayne. And the seawalls did explode, and he did flood Gotham. He did try to wash away the filth and corruption that's in Gotham to cause the real change, as he says. And I know, of course, there's some genius that's involved with his theme being Ave Maria and him singing the same song while he's in the cell. But I don't know that much about that song, or like when it comes to instrumentals. My girlfriend has told me it's genius, and she's pretty much right on a lot of things, if not everything, so I'll believe her, and I'll take her word for it. But this scene is one of my favorites, too, because it really does feel like Batman talking to the Riddler, straight out of the comics. The core characters, straight into a movie, straight into cinema. It really feels like the Batman universe is alive, and not just like it feels like, but it is. And it's straight on the big screen, and it's straight into a film, which I love. And then, I might have said this already, but he tells Batman that he was inspired by Batman. The whole reason of him becoming Riddler was that he saw Batman in this cape and cowl going around Gotham and enacting his own, source of, sense of justice and vengeance. So Riddler decided to don his own mask and do his own kind of thing and become his own sort of vigilante, which I think does make for a good reasoning of him becoming Riddler, and I think it helps the plot and this realistic grounded take they took with it. Also, while keeping the source material how it is, and still making it feel like a comic book film and still keeping it like the world of Batman. And I might have already said this also, but I'm not sure. But a lot of the villains make a name for themselves in the first place because of Batman. And this is a hell of a way to introduce Riddler and give that reasoning and why he's a villain in the first place, which I actually think is a brilliant way to do that. And before I move on, I know there's some genius who his theme being Ave Maria, as well as him singing it in the cell, but I don't know that much about the instrumentals of just music in general. But my girlfriend does, and she's told me it's genius, so I'll take her word for it. But before I move on to the next point, let's stay in Arkham for a bit, and let's talk about the scene with Riddler and the unnamed Arkham prisoner. Of course, in quotations, because we all know who it is. So let's get this out of the way first. This has been rumored heavily since like a while before the film was released, and now it's here, and we could proudly say that it was real. But Barry Keoghan has been casted as the Joker, and in the film, I really did think it was unnecessary to have this clip involved. But Matt Reeves did come out and talk about it in like a lot of detail, which I'll make another video about in a breakdown sort of video. But after he explained it and said that he doesn't even know when he's going to use his character, a Joker. He doesn't know when he's going to use Joker at all, ever. He doesn't know when he's going to do it, but he's planning to. But he put that scene in the movie and left it in there for the fans to know that it's canon and it's a fact that this character does exist in this world, and anything can happen, because we all know how unpredictable this character can be. There was another deleted scene with this character where Batman would go into Arkham much earlier in the film, like after the Commissioner's death, after Gordon and Batman look at the rat death trap and the Commissioner's body. He would go into Arkham and try to ID Riddler and see if any other prisoners know who this, sadistic killer is. And hopefully we do get that scene, officially released somewhere. But it's probably not going to be canon. But it would have been cool to see the scene. And maybe if it was included, the scene towards the end would have made more sense. But he did take out said deleted scene because he wanted the story to keep moving forward. And even though I did think it was unnecessary at the time of seeing it, I've seen the movie twice now, and I think it was better, seeing the whole movie. I mean, the better overall was better seeing it the second time, but even the scene included was better. But some of the details that Matt Reeves has said is that Batman has encountered his character. It's not the police or anything that put him in jail. Batman did encounter the Joker already, but this character, let's just call him John Doe, because his identity's unknown. That's what unknown identities go by, as just John Doe. So John Doe in this has all the characteristics as the Joker, but he hasn't gotten to his full potential. He hasn't reached his status as Joker, and he hasn't taken the name or mantle of the Joker yet. And I have high hopes in this. I trust in everything Matt Reeves is doing. Like I've said before, I trusted him with this film, and this film came out phenomenally. And I trust him with Joker, and I think Barry Keoghan will do great whenever he does come back for the role. From what we've seen, though, I liked his voice. There's not much to judge off of, because I know he'll probably make it better and perfect it when he actually does come back for the role as a official role. But his physical design looks pretty cool. I know we've only seen his face, and we can tell he's disfigured, and we know that this Joker literally can't stop smiling because of this disease he has, which I think is pretty cool. And we don't know what has happened in his past besides the disease, and that he has encountered Batman. We don't know too much, which is kind of the point of the character and his background, is that it's all a mystery. There's obvious things from comics that allude to it, but we know that there's no vat of chemicals and that there's a disease. But we never know. And this really does keep the grounded feel of things present with the Joker. And I have high hopes for it, and I think that pretty much sums up the conversation about Joker in this universe. And since I've talked about pretty much everything I wanted to talk about without making the video too long, let's go to the final thing, the ending of the film. Not only is it a phenomenal Batman movie that I'm talking about today, but it is a phenomenal arc for the character of Batman as well. He really does go from this vigilante to, towards the end of the movie, he learns what Gotham needs him to be. He learns what kind of Batman he needs to become, which I think is done phenomenally well. He truly does go from a symbol of fear to a beacon of hope. everything in this movie, toward like the ending of it and towards the ending of it, building up to the end, everything really is like beautifully done. How Batman goes from that symbol of fear to a beacon of hope, and how the city can trust him, and how he can be a savior and guardian to the people. And not only a figurative beacon of hope, but a literal beacon of hope, as he uses the flare to light his surroundings and save everyone from out of the flooded debris. God, his ending is beautiful. And again, Pattinson with one hell of a performance with just his eyes, and can convey so much emotion. One of Riddler's like goons tells him he's vengeance when like Gordon asks like, who he is, whatever, when they unmask him. After, by the way, that awesome clip of Batman filling himself up with adrenaline after almost like getting knocked unconscious, it's awesome, and literally everyone fears him. But Batman does know that he needs to not take it too far. But there's such poetry in that, because the guy tells him he's vengeance, and Batman, just by his eyes, you could tell that there's so much emotion behind his look. And Batman, like that moment, realizes that he's been doing it wrong, and there's a better way to approach his crusade than what he's already doing. And that's when he really does learn that Gotham needs more than this vigilante. And that's where he goes from a symbol of fear to a literal beacon of hope. And then it ends with Selina taking off and leaving Gotham, going to Bloodhaven actually, which is a neighboring city. And Batman knows that he has to stay in Gotham and continue with his mission. And again, just with the eyes, looking back at Selina and going towards back into Gotham, back into the roots of what he wants to do. It's so beautiful, phenomenal movie. I absolutely loved it. If you couldn't tell, I've been talking for a while now, and the video is probably not going to be all of it. I just want to get most of my main points across, and stuff that I want to share, and stuff that I want to put up on my channel, and stuff that I want to be in the video. Also, I didn't talk about it because everything else outshined it to me, or like I wanted to talk about these things more than this. But Selina Kyle's twist also, I basically summed up my opinion and like what I thought of Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman, which I did love in the other review. But the really only spoiler kind of stuff is that she was actually Falcone's daughter, and Falcone had killed her mother. And this does help with her character a lot. There's a lot of emotional weight with her character, especially with her relationship with her and Batman, because they're so similar. But at the same time, they have this relationship of where Batman has interest in what he fought, what he swore to fight against, which was crime, and her being a thief and a criminal. But I did like a Catwoman, and that really does help with the character overall. And it probably would have helped with what would have been Falcone's arrest if he had not have, got shot and killed. Oh my God! Also, before I forget, I'm so glad they didn't kill off the Riddler, because say that we never see him again. If we never see him again in this, because he's in Arkham, or if he died, we never see him again. There's no difference. We never see him again. But so it makes no difference. But I'm still so glad they didn't kill him off, because regardless of whether we see him or not again, the fans have a headcanon, like it's canon that he's in Arkham. So instead of killing him off, they're actually expanding this and growing out this rogues gallery that just reside in Arkham Asylum, which I love and I appreciate so much that Matt Reeves has done that for us. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in this video. I tried to make sure it wasn't too long, so I'm sorry for the outcome. But again, thank you for watching. I appreciate it very much. And this has been Ghosty. See yous. I bid you all farewell.